Hi, I'm Matthew Herzberg, and this is the Myopia Mindset. This is your weekly check-in for motivation, education, and inspiration on your path towards success with myopia management. And speaking of education, this is going to conclude my Road to Vision by Design 2025 series, where I'm highlighting some of the more noteworthy speakers and lectures that you'll be able to find at the conference. And closing us out for this series, I have two absolutely amazing orthokeratologists, two awesome myopia management specialists joining me on the podcast. I've got Dr. Sherman Tung and Dr. Laurence Wong. Gentlemen, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. So we'll start with introductions first. Dr. Sherman Tung, if you don't know, is a Vancouver-born optometrist with a strong passion for myopia management and ultimate frisbee, apparently. He is a fellow of the International Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control and was named BC Optometrist of the Year in 2019 for his outstanding contributions to eye care and the community. Is that true, Sherman? You're super into ultimate frisbee?
Yeah, I did play a lot of ultimate frisbee, but now it's kind of sliding towards pickleball now. So
yes, the pickleball.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we also have Dr. Laurence Wong. Like I mentioned, he's an accomplished optometrist with a strong background in myopia research and orthokeratology. He's originally from Hong Kong and now based in Houston. Dr. Wong earned his Doctor of Optometry degree, magna cum laude, from the University of Houston and has been a dedicated clinician and educator ever since. He is also a fellow of the International Academy of Orthokeratology and Myopia Control and has lectured extensively on Ortho-K lens design. Laurence, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me today. Thank you for the nice introductions.
Yes, I'm super honored to have the both of you on because I saw your lecture on the agenda for VBD, Advanced Orthokeratology Lens Design for Better Myopia Control. And this is going to be one of those lectures that I'm definitely not going to skip it. I'm going to be there right up front. And I think everybody attending should go check it out. But before we get started, gentlemen, let's start with Sherman. For housekeeping, if anybody has any questions about anything we talk about in this episode and they want to get in touch with you, how can they do so?
The easiest is probably through email. So you can email me at drsherman@helloeyelab.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at helloeyelab.com. helloeyelab.
All right. And Laurence, same for you.
So my email is Dr. Wong, DRWONG, at vision1eye.com, Dr. Wong at visionY.com, or you can send me a message through LinkedIn. I check LinkedIn a little bit more frequently instead of Instagrams.
Awesome. All right. And for my part, don't forget to like, subscribe, 5-star review, all the things that help us grow and get in front of more people. And if you absolutely love myopia management as much as we do, and you're looking for more, you can support the podcast by going to myopiamindset.com. You can contact me directly at myopiamindset@gmail.com. All right. So let's start by giving the audience like a foundation for you two, because I think it's just as interesting to find out, how you got interested in myopia management and more specifically orthokeratology, advanced orthokeratology, and what your practices look like. So we'll start with you, Sherman. How did you give us an overview of what your practice is like and how you got interested in myopia management and Ortho-K?
So my specialty was in ocular disease, and we see a lot of diseases, especially from my high myopia. And it just kind of got to the point where I'm mostly doing reactive care and not proactive care. And just kind of had this light bulb went on. Is like, we can prevent a lot of ocular diseases just by preventing the axial length from getting longer. And that's where I kind of dove into myopia control. And the best place to do it was I started with Vision by Design. And as I thought I kind of knew a lot about Ortho-K, and I knew a little bit about, but I didn't really know the whole picture. Mm-hmm. And that's where Vision by Design helped me got into it. And usually you'll start off with, everybody gets scared in the beginning, fitting Ortho-K, and then you do the easy cases. And then I'm one of those, doctors that, I want to learn more. And when you want to do more of the difficult cases, that's where, I got really into the more advanced fitting. That's how my whole Ortho-K started. And so right before the pandemic, I opened my office, and doing Ortho-K, and I really want to focus on pediatrics. So our office focus mostly on pediatrics. So we do a lot of vision therapy, and we do a lot of myopia control. So that's what my office mostly focuses on. It's like a specialty clinic.
Right. Love it. And Laurence, how about yourself? How did you get interested
So
tell us about your practice?
Yeah, so my practice is actually started as a general practice. So we do refractions, medical exam. And then about 10 years ago, I get really tired of answering parents. Every time my parents come in with the kid, their prescription keep increasing. The only thing I can tell them is, get a pair of glasses. Hopefully nothing will happen. And then they will get better on its own. But that it's not going to happen this way, because I've been seeing kids' prescriptions getting worse years by year. And then about 10 years ago, and I started researching what would be the possible treatments for myopia control. And I run into orthokeratology. Then I started attending my first VBD in 2014 in Chicago. And then I got very excited because all the information in the VBD was never presented to me anywhere else. So I started getting more into Ortho-K. I want to learn how to use Ortho-K to treat myopia for children to prevent their progressions. And then as I start getting into Ortho-K, and I found that if I just use a regular Ortho-K lenses, there's a lot of cases that we cannot handle. So then I'm grateful enough that I'm actually able to meet with Dr. Everett Charles and also Dr. Tung. They taught me a lot about how to use custom lenses to achieve a better result for myopia management and also for vision corrections. So that's how I sparked the interest in getting into a more customizable Ortho-K lenses. And then that's how me and Sherman start doing lectures on these topics.
Fantastic. I'm very interested to find out if we can figure out the moment where, the average doc who's interested in myopia management starts going into the advanced category, because I've met so many docs over the years who they have, a starter interest in Ortho-K and myopia management. And you can tell that they're only going to take it so far, and that's totally fine. Advanced design is not for everyone. But how do we know what that moment is? Is it just a specific kind of individual? Is it an exposure to certain kinds of cases? What do you guys think? Whoever wants to answer first, go for it.
You can go ahead, Laurence.
So my areas basically is really highly academic competitive environment. So I see a lot of high school kids, middle school kids. They actually, and also the parents actually want the result right away. They want the kid to be able to see like 20/20, 20/25 within 3 or 4 days. And then I start with some commercial lenses. Honestly, I cannot achieve that type of result. And then I start looking into customized Ortho-K lenses, particularly for like high prescriptions, where I see a lot of children with high prescription at the early age, and also particularly on some patients with really flat cornea. And flat cornea is really harder to treat as well, and also harder to get myopia management on. So I have some failed cases before, so that's why I start I've actually become motivated to learn the customizable Ortho-K lenses, so that we can actually create a better lens to cover a variety of patient-based.
So it was the patient demand. They came in asking for, needing a higher end orthokeratology. And after you had mentioned some mistakes or some fits that didn't go correctly, if I'm not mistaken, and that spurred you forward to try harder and harder cases. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I love it. Yeah. So much of, especially the AAOMC docs, have like a similar kind of alignment, right? Where, they're seeing the need in their office, and they've found a varying level of success, and they've decided that they need to step up and try to do more. Sherman, do you have a similar kind of story, or what was your path to advanced Ortho-K design?
Yeah, I think it's usually the demand. So the demand is, you're not going to get only the -2s, -3s. You're going to start getting the -6, -7s, and they're outside the parameters of, most commercial brands. And, there's only, you don't really, you can do it. It's just, you have to put the effort to kind of learn to do it. And I think one of those, once you kind of try those harder cases, you're going to fail. And when you fail, that's where it kind of goes sparks. It's like, is there anything else that we can do? And when you find out that there is something you can do, but you just have to learn it, that's the part where it's kind of like a fork. You either, no, I'm going to keep it easy, or, I'm going to learn how to do it. And it sounds scary, but I think once you start doing, you have to fail a little bit in the beginning. And that's what I did. I'm pretty sure Laurence did the same thing. First, those cases do take up some of your time, but once you kind of learn it, it's very satisfying. And it does take some cases to fail to know what you did wrong in order to improve. If everything's always right, you're never going to get better. But it's when you fail, when you learn, hey, what did I do wrong? That's when you learn the quickest.
Yeah. Laurence, you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantastic. So did you, I know that, Laurence, you mentioned Dr. Tung and Dr. Chow. Did you have a regular source of mentorship or, a consultant to work with that helped you get there? I've seen a lot of the new to Ortho-K docs who are starting out, need a lot of that initial education. Vision by design only happens once a year, unfortunately. Is there a need for like mentorship in our community? Is that something that benefited the both of you?
Well, I think that first of all, I learned my customized Ortho-K lenses mainly from Dr. Chow. He was very nice enough to allow me to email him cases, and then he could give me feedback. And that's how I started learning how to do customizable Ortho-K lenses. And it has been really, really helpful. I mean, just like Sherman said at the beginning, we fell, and then it took me like half a day to figure out how to design a lens, how to fit a high minus patient, how to fit a patient with high minus patients with also astigmatisms. It takes a long time to come up with a lens, but as Sherman said that, just practice makes perfect. So you just have to keep going, and keep trying, and don't be afraid of failing. If you, for some reason, if the first lens is not working, then you learn from it. Then you make adjustments. You will see how the adjustment help you to get a better result. So that's how I think me and Sherman learned how to use customized Ortho-K lenses.
Right. And Sherman, you had to have been able to kind of pad the practice in your office appropriately. Like, for instance, I've noticed a lot of new to Ortho-K docs are not charging appropriately. So if they do run into these harder cases and things aren't working out as expected, it's very easy to predict that they're going to spin out probably for good on Ortho-K. Did you have these certain measures in place in your practice, like charging appropriately and making sure you're educated and whatnot in order to kind of soften the blow of failure?
Yeah. So you always want to manage patients' expectations, right? So if you're going to have a very difficult case, you always let them know, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be trying it, but there's no guarantees. And, you do charge accordingly. So I do have 3 different tiers. So I have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So if it's something very exotic prescription, then, I'm going to be charging tier 3 because I know it's going to take my time. But if it's something simple, then it'll be tier 1. So I do have that in place to kind of, you do want to get rewarded for your time.
Yeah. Laurence, the same for you?
It's the same for me. So I have about 2 or 3 tiers, very similar to Sherman's fee structures. The more complicated cases, the fee a little bit higher, but also, again, we also have to set expectations, let the patient know that actually mainly it's the parents, to be honest with you, to know that this is going to be a bit more difficult case, but we're willing to give it a try. And then again, we will be trying a few lenses. Just be patient with us, and we will try to get the best outcome for your child.
Right. Yeah, the practice I grew up in, which was a pioneer Ortho-K practice, we knew which patients were going to be, more difficult or higher maintenance, and you have to charge appropriately for it. And that was, that was a lesson we learned earlier on. And it's definitely, setting expectations is definitely key, because most parents will understand and respond very well if you are able to walk them through that, in my experience. Let's talk about the lecture at VBD. What inspired the development of this advanced session on orthokeratology lens design? Like, how did you guys come up with it, and give us an overview for it?
So I didn't have that many mentors when I was doing more advanced. Like, luckily it was during COVID time, so I had a lot of free time. So that's where I watched, learning bits and pieces from here, learning from here. And majority of all of them is kind of like beginner and intermediate. So there wasn't really a lot of advanced stuff. And you kind of have to like go through a lot of different material resources. And so as we got our fellowship, we did our study, there must be a better way to kind of learn from it. And Laurence and I kind of, when we both become fellows, we kind of, we go to Vision by Design, we start chatting, and that's how we got closest through these meetings. And we're like, hey, how can we make, how do we share our knowledge in a way that it can help more people, like the people that really want to do the advanced stuff. And I was kind of intimidated to talk to the gurus. And, I'm kind of like, I'm not advanced yet. I'm kind of like intermediate advanced. Like there was that kind of gap. And so that's where Laurence and I kind of talked about, hey, what if we do a lecture that can doesn't go into that detail, but at least it's a resource where it can help the intermediate advanced fitters. And that's how we started.
Yeah. Laurence,
Yes.
Go ahead. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I also think that, I think a lot of people are interested in the advanced Ortho-K informations, but the information are not very accessible. So if you try to Google it, it's not there. And I hate to say this, a lot of things is from experience. So I think one day me and Sherman were saying that, hey, so why don't we just do a lectures covering more advanced informations, how for beginners or intermediate user to understand the actual Ortho-K, what's the function of each curve. That's actually what we go over in the lectures. And from that point on, they're learning the skill how to construct or build a functional Ortho-K lenses for different cases. And there's some tricks that we've been using, and then we want to pass on those informations to the audience as well.
Yeah, you'll be covering several key parameters like base curve, reverse curve, sagittal depth. Which one of these tends to be most misunderstood or misused in clinical practice, do you guys think?
I don't know if it's misused. I think it's just understanding how it works. Because majority of any type of beginner kind of Ortho-K, you do it like either topography based where, hey, you just spit out a lens out for you, or you use these parameters to design lens, but no one really goes into the detail. So, we will go over if you have this problem, what exactly are we changing the alignment curve? You'll learn troubleshooting, oh, this lens is, is riding high, whatever, you make it flatter or make it steeper, but how do you do it? And that's where that missing link is. So I don't think anyone misunderstands which one it is. It's just, how do you actually do it? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten a very basic clinical introduction to orthokeratology when I was briefly working with Johnson & Johnson's myopia division for a couple of years. Before that, when I was with the AAOMC, I learned, practice management and administration, stuff like that. I grew up in an Ortho-K practice. I knew the fundamentals, but I got a clinical boot camp of my own by visiting practices. And I found that most docs didn't even understand how these aspects of Ortho-K were working. They oftentimes did not even have the right diameter for the eye, let alone were able to make an adjustment based on, the results that they were seeing. It makes me wonder if the kind of design that you guys are doing, if there is a divide between, your guys' skill level and basically everybody else. Are these things that can be picked up and learned? Obviously you're doing a course on it, but under different circumstances, are these how accessible is this information? Because, you have these docs who are getting Ortho-K adjustments made to their designs or the lenses that they're working with, but they're often working with an empirical or a consultant who is just doing it for them, and they're not really learning much. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'll kind of give you the example, and probably generally, I'm going to give you a kind of like a math question, example. Let's say, if I add one number with another number, we know it's going to be a bigger number.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what you learn about Ortho-K. If you have this condition, that's what you should be doing. So what we're kind of going to is hey, what is 2 plus 3? You should know it's 5. So you have to understand those kind of numbers, and that's where, you can learn about it, but it's actually doing it and actually see a case. hey, what did I change exactly to that base curve? Or did I make it steeper? Like, what happened? So that's the part where we'll teach you, but then at the same time, you still have to kind of make that mistake and do it. And then you'll know. So for me, it's kind of like, well, okay, 2 + 3, let's say I did my math wrong and I got -2. It's like, how did that happen? So unless you start doing the math, it's like, oh, and then you'll know for sure 2 + 3 is always equal to 5. Then that's how you kind of learn. And that's where we'll try to teach you guys the parameters but at the same time, you have to kind of practice it in real life to really know it. Does that kind of make sense? Laurence,
no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Laurence.
Yes.
What do you have to add to, do you have anything to add to what Sherman said?
It's pretty much what he said. Again, I always have to say practice makes perfect. So, but again, our lecture would cover most of the functions of each curvatures. The idea is once the audience understands the function of each curvatures, it's easier for them to learn how to troubleshoot. Because one thing is, I think Ortho-K is a little bit more difficult to troubleshoot sometimes, even with a consultant, because the consultant is not looking at the lens. Unless you send them a lot of information, there's going to be a lot of communications. But a lot of time, I know doctors don't have a lot of times. But if the doctors can understand the function of each curvatures, what would be the outcome if we make it, what changes to make on each curvatures, I think they can effectively communicate with the consultants better. And at the end, it would benefit the doctors and also would benefit the patient because the patient would get a better result. So that's actually what we're trying to do.
Yeah. So because this is based on the experience that both of you have had over the years, do you have like a go-to strategy when troubleshooting suboptimal outcomes with the Ortho-K lenses? Is there, you know what I'm saying?
Okay, so for skill set wise, I think at the end of the day, you can troubleshoot all you want, but it's back to the basics. You have to have good topography. Okay, if you don't have good topography, you'll never be able to redesign the lens. So you have to have the right data first. Okay, so having really accurate topographies is very, very important. So because that's one of the mistakes that I learned, that a lot of, you can eliminate almost 50% of troubleshoots if you have just really good topography. So it's nothing special. It's just that when I first started, I just did, not very good topographies. And I tried hey, what's wrong? I thought it's good enough, but I learned that very quickly. So number one, disclosure, you have to have good topographies. Now, back to the design part. Nowadays, the main thing is, you need to have a good diameter. You have to have, it's kind of like building a house. You have to have a good foundation. We'll be talking about this. You have to have a good foundation. So if your house doesn't have a good foundation, the rest of your house is going to fall apart. Same thing with the lens. So the strongest foundation first, you need to know the diameter and you need to know the alignment curve. So that's your foundation. And then you can start building your house. And that's how we're going to teach you. If your foundation is sloppy, then your lens, it might be too steep, then everything's going to be steep. If your curve is too flat, then everything's going to be flat. So that's where, if you're going to start off with something first, it's going to be the diameter. Make sure you have the right diameter and make sure you have the right foundation, which is your alignment curve. So we will go over that during our talk.
Yeah, it's interesting that a lot of the aspects of advanced design have their roots in basic, Ortho-K troubleshooting. I've seen so many cases, especially when I was working with Ability Overnight, and I was just a basic level clinical sales consultant, not handling anything complex. We had Barb and Steph for that. But, I would get these feedback from the accounts where they would say, well, Matt, what's wrong why didn't we get the results that we were looking for? And I would open up and go over it with them and say, well, your HVID was not accurately put in. Your diameter was not accurately selected. And there's these key features that you can just go through on a basic level that, this is where we need to do better in the future. And I'm glad that you mentioned topography capture, because that's another very overlooked or shortcutted aspect of, the new to Ortho-K doctors, for sure. Laurence, do you have any procedure or steps for your troubleshooting when it comes to suboptimal Ortho-K lenses?
Also, I like to look at the topography because the topography would give us the information how the lens functions when the eyes is closed and give us a lot of hints of is the lens is feeling too fit or too tight or too loose. If there's a central islands there, we need to fix the central islands. Another thing I like to look at is sometimes when let's say that we have the correct HVID, we have the correct diameters, and then we have the correct alignment curve. Sometimes we also have to look at the subtleties on the forcing patterns because the forcing patterns dictate how the lens fit on the eyes. So I look at the basic information like Sherman mentions. I also need to look at the topography, particularly the differential maps, and also need to look at the forcing pattern. To me, is very important. If the forcing pattern is bad, typically the lens is not fitting right.
Yeah, another great point. Fluorescein, that's another often overlooked aspect for new to Ortho-K docs. They're not, the practice that I've been in, they're not doing fluorescein, and that is also very frustrating because you can learn so much. I remember we had, a lens that wasn't exactly doing what it was supposed to do, and on the fluorescein image that they took with their camera, you could see that there was just a little bit of fluorescein that was coming out on this small part of the lens leaking through. And that's where we had to make an adjustment. Like, how do you guys approach redesigning lenses for patients who haven't had success? What is walk us through that strategy when it comes to making adjustments? Is it the same thing or? First? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's a loaded question because you also get what's the word I'm looking for? You also get from your colleagues, they can't do their OK lens and they send it over to you. So, for me, I always like to start from scratch if it's something like that. But if it's my own, then usually, like I said, the topography. But if it's something like a case that, hey, what's going on? Then you got to go back to look at the data because the math's not going to lie. So you have to go, hey, what's these? Like you go back to almost every single detail. Like, is your HVID working? Is your eccentricity? Did I do some calculation wrong? But when you look at the fluorescein pattern, you'll see like, hey, why is this lens so steep? And then you look back at your numbers design. It's like, oh, this is where I messed up. Sometimes it could be a simple error. Like so it'd be 6.12, you put 6.22 down, and it's just an error like that. And that's what caused it. So that's where if it doesn't work out, usually you have to take a step back and you have to retrace your steps. That's how I do it. But once you kind of make enough mistakes, then like, oh, I always make that mistake when I do that. Then you're just gonna stop doing that, and you kind of this is kind of bad. It's kind of like I'm gonna give a pickleball analogy. There are patterns.
Yeah.
You do you kind of when you play pickleball, when you drive, you speed up, like you think. There's always gonna be patterns. Same thing with the more Ortho-K you do, you're gonna see patterns. Like, oh, why does this lens so tight get stuck? Like, oh, this person, there's too much suction in the fluorescein. Then you start looking at, okay, in the future, I'm gonna make sure the fluorescein is not gonna be too tight. Like, unless you make kind of those mistakes, you won't really know. So that's why it's a loaded question because there's a lot of patterns that probably Laurence and I developed that. Sometimes there's even patterns that I learned from, something that completely doesn't make sense. Like all my numbers are correct. Everything is correct. And I found out that I didn't know about this, but like if you sleep, take a nap before your Ortho-K follow-up, that can completely change your numbers. And I was like, I never knew that. So you'll still learn it. So even though sometimes you retrace your math, like sometimes it doesn't make sense. That's where your colleagues are very, very important. But I just learned that even though you think I'm an advanced orthokeratologist, I'm still learning every single day. So, and that's why these meetings are kind of important. But yeah. Laurence, how do you trace back?
So again, I look at the visual acuities, and then I look at the forcing patterns. I look at the topography. I want to see if these three things make sense. So, for example, sometimes when we see when we look at the topography, we don't see any rings. So a lot of times that means that it could be the lenses is not tight enough. The lenses may be too loose. Then I go back, look at the forcing pattern and see if there's any leakings in the alignment zone. So, and then sometimes it's really subtle. honestly, sometimes maybe only about 0.25 diopter change will fix the problem. It happens a lot. So I have to say that, yes, I agree with Sherman that it's a pattern. When we start practicing it, you see the same problems again, you recognize a pattern, then you can actually troubleshoot the problem a lot faster. Also, when you use a customizable Ortho-K lenses, a lot of time all the parameter is a known number to you. So let's say that, oh, if I notice the lens is a bit too fit, too flat, should I change the base? Should I change the alignment curve by 0.25 diopter or 0.5 diopters? Then since you're using a customizable lens, every time you change numbers, you can see exactly how much changes you make. Then once you make the second lens or third lens, you see the result, then you keep that in mind, okay, for this particular situations, I only have to make a small change. But for a different situation, I need to make a bigger change. So again, it's just a repetitions and recognizing the patterns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love it. I love everything that you guys are saying, and I'm looking forward to this course because there's always something to learn. And even if you're a dummy about Ortho-K like me, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to learn in this course. So I'm very much looking forward to it. All right, gentlemen. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I can't wait to go to Vision by Design, and I'm really looking forward to the course. The event is April 22nd through the 25th. AAOMC.org is how you find out more information about the event. And once again, guys, if anybody has any questions for you or wants to get in touch with you, let's start with Laurence. How can they get in touch with you?
So email me at drwong@vision1eye.com, drwong@vision1eye.com.
All
right. And Sherman?
It's going to be Dr. Sherman at helloeyelab.com. So Dr. Sherman at helloeyelab.com. And you can also follow us on Instagram, Hello iLab.
All right. So for my part, if you enjoyed this episode, there's actually more waiting for you. We release extended versions of every episode that we do exclusively for our paid supporters, along with monthly bonus content you won't find anywhere else. It's just $12 a month, which is roughly the cost of a cup of coffee each and every week. And I like to say, if you would buy me a cup of coffee to have on awesome guests like Sherman and Laurence and nerd out about myopia, then please consider becoming a supporter of the Myopia Mindset. You can do so on our Substack or at myopiamindset.com. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And for everybody else, we'll see you at the next one.